Sam, if you're ready for your opening statement.
Absolutely.
Excellent. You're good to go.
Okay. Hey everybody, my name is Sam Forstag, and I'm running for Congress in Western Montana to finally get us some working class representation in Washington. And I'm running on the basic notion that you ought to be able to work one good job in this state and afford housing and health coverage that actually gets you health care when you need it, and child care if you'd like to stick around the state and raise a family like I would. I spent the last 8 years working as a wildland firefighter across Montana and across the West, the last 4 as a smoke jumper. And I spent the last 2 years working as a leader in my union's local, fighting back against attacks on our public lands, our public servants from the richest man in the world. I also spent the better part of the last decade working in between fire seasons as an organizer and advocate for things like public education, libraries, and our basic constitutional freedoms in times and places where the only way to get something done is working with both parties. That is what it's going to take to win this race. That is what it's going to take to deliver on solving big problems, and that's why I'm here.
That wasn't me.
Okay, well, it's up to you now, Matt.
Test. All right, try this again. Thank you everyone for coming. I'm Matt Raines. Fourth generation rancher. Family ranch goes back to the 1800s. My great-great-grandmother pioneered 1860s to Ennis, and my great-grandfather started his Montana journey right here in Butte. After that, I graduated West Point, was in the military, flew Blackhawks, was an Army captain, and served in Iraq. Did over 60 countries doing humanitarian photojournalism around the world, mostly Africa, Middle East, and Asia. Came back, worked in the energy sector. So I was a power plant inspector. I'd go out and do $1 million worth of repair finding, hand that over to the Boilermakers, let them go fix it. And then last 5 years with Montana Farmers Union, I helped lead the first in the nation USDA meat processing co-op, Hammer, which allowed our local ranchers and farmers to retail their own livestock, helping them not only be viable, but also generation.
Excellent. We're going to be ready for your opening statement. Go for it. I tend to take just a second to warm up once it's on. Maybe. And these on the floor work too.
Check.
All right, are we on?
That one works.
All right, welcome everybody tonight to the party's debate, where we don't allow the party leaders to pick candidates, we let voters pick them. It's good to hear it. That's really nice. I'm proud of that. I'm Ryan Busse, I'm running for Congress, and one of the main reasons I'm running is this place made me a better person. It gave me a chance. It gave my wife Sarah and I a chance. I've got 2 boys now, 18 and 21, and I'm really worried that they're living in a Montana that's different than the one that gave me a chance. And I want to fight for their Montana. I want to fight for you and your kids. The truth is, we haven't had representation in Washington, D.C. in the last few years. We've been putting the wrong people there. And so a lot of the woes that we feel, a lot of the affordability problems, so many of the things that we're fighting now, that's because we put the wrong people there. You deserve representation. My boys deserve representation. Your kids deserve representation. And it's about time we put somebody there who will fight for them, because we got a lot of work to do.
And Russ, you're up with your opening statement.
Well, hello, Butte, America. My name is Russ Cleveland. I am a proud dad, small business owner, grew up right in Stevensville, Montana, and came over here to good old Butte as an ore digger, playing football for old Coach Bob Green. So this is second home for I went on to start a small business in childcare after serving in the United States Navy, after leaving tech. I went on to serve 9,000 kids with that business across 42 locations, helping Colorado get universal pre-K pass. But my real passion is in healthcare. My wife and I lost our oldest daughter to leukemia in 2020, and almost our youngest daughter to another rare lung disease in 2022. And so we are at a time when more than anything, we have to fix our healthcare system. And I know Montana needs representation in this moment more than ever. And that's exactly what I intend to bring you all, so I'd be honored to have your vote tonight. Thank you so much.
And without further ado, we will get into our questions for the evening. We have 4 questions. You will each have 60 seconds to answer them. Once all 4 candidates have answered the question, you are each welcome to a 20-second rebuttal each, just by raising your hand, and we'll go from there. But we'll start with, Sam will be answering first. I'll read the question once, and we'll go from there. So our first question tonight. Montana home prices have surged while wages have not. What can you, as a member of Congress, realistically do to address housing affordability in places like Missoula, Bozeman, and our rural communities? Sam, we'll start with you.
I'm glad we're starting with this topic, because this is the first thing that we're talking about everywhere. As I travel across Western Montana, and the first thing I hear a lot of people talking about for the last 5 or 10 years at any restaurant or bar in the state. And it's the fact that a lot of people, an entire generation or 2 of Montanans, cannot conceive of owning a home in a place where they live, a place where they're born or raised, or where they're working right now. And what that is it's a housing crisis. So we need to address this like a real crisis. And the hopeful thing here is we've had a housing crisis in this country before. We had a housing crisis after World War II. We had an entire generation of Americans coming back from overseas, ready to buy homes and build families. And you know what we did? The federal government stepped in on a bipartisan basis and invested billions of dollars in building housing, hundreds of thousands of units of it. We created the low-income housing voucher program, and we got a whole better set of tools we could be investing in, and we need to start investing in right now to make sure people can afford to live in this state.
Thanks, Sam. We'll move on to Ben.
So yeah, with Montana, Pandora's box has been open. The rest of the world's realized that this is a really incredible place to move to. So they're going to keep coming in. In Congress, we can address it. First of all, we have to get Wall Street out of our housing industry. That first and foremost, we need to have Montana's owning Montana homes. With that, supply. We have to increase the supply of homes around here, in the urban areas, but also in our rural communities. We have the next generation that wants to come back, but there's nowhere to live. And so in Congress, we can help with one, federally, we can make sure that we have a footprint. We can help with utilities, build out areas that want to develop. And then we have to make sure our contractors don't just cherry pick the mansions for the billionaires, but they actually are enticed to come in and do low income and middle income housing.
Thank you, Matt. We'll move on to Ryan.
We got here for a couple of reasons. One was thrust upon us. People moved here, but we also made choices. Our representatives made choices through the past few years, maybe the past dozen years or so. We've been transferring wealth upward in this country, and we've made it very difficult for people to afford housing now. And it's time that our representative in Washington, D.C. make other choices. We just funded ICE to the tune of, ICE and DHS to the tune of $191 billion. That's more than all the 14 militaries on the face of the earth. I think we need to, and our Republican representatives love that. I think it's time that we put somebody in Washington, D.C. who will do things, who will push other buttons like, why don't we have more low-income housing assistance? Why don't we have first-time buyer assistance? Why don't we have a renters program? Because rentals are a huge deal here. Why don't we have an occupational priority for teachers, for workers who make a community go? Teachers, firefighters, police officers. We can do that. We've just made choices to put our money elsewhere. And if you send one of us to Washington, D.C., I think it will happen. And I promise you I'm going to fight for it.
Thanks, Ryan. And we have Russ next.
Yeah, I'm proud to say that I've already attacked this and have experience from two sides of this. I've done the lending, I've worked in finance for almost a decade. I've also built affordable housing right here in Montana with my own two hands. We have to take this seriously from a couple different angles. The first and most important is wages. I would propose a 50-to-1 ratio on executive frontline worker wages to close that wage disparity and start attacking that without necessarily raising the federal minimum wage and hurting small businesses. The second would be banning corporate ownership. We need to keep residential homes in our hands, in working class hands. The third would be funding affordable housing projects. That is conditional grants and builder incentives, and I think all of this is part of a broader affordability strategy that is included and interwoven with things that help with affordability, like universal health care, universal child care, and student loan reform.
Perfect, thank you all. Does anyone have a rebuttal to make? You have 20 seconds. Raise your hand. Otherwise, we can move on. Awesome, great, we'll move on.
Howdy, gentlemen. This question is on healthcare and rural access. What is your plan to prevent rural hospital closures in Montana? We will start with you, Matt Raines.
I mean, first of all, the big beautiful bill was the attack on our rural healthcare system directly. We need to repeal that. The 8 hospitals that were spotted there to be closed. We have 9 counties in Montana that do not have a healthcare facility. So we absolutely, it's not just like patching this over anymore. We have to find funding to come into Montana and increase our rural hospitals. Where I live in Sims, I'm 45 minutes to an hour from an emergency room. That is unacceptable. If we expect the next generation, the youth, the 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds to come back and raise families in our rural towns, they need to have accessible health care to do that, or they'll go find somewhere else. And so it is our obligation in Congress to make sure that our rural healthcare system is supported.
And now for you, Mr. Bussing.
I think we have a couple of problems, one short-term, one long-term, and I'd like to address both of them. In this recent federal legislation, the Republicans saw fit to cut Medicaid, which is going to drastically impact rural hospitals. It's a pending disaster. But here's the real problem. We need universal health care in this country. We need somebody to stand up for us. We allow insurance companies to profit $74.1 billion a year, billion with a B. And every penny of that is profit. It's slowing down your health care, making your health care worse. Because how do insurance companies make a profit? By reducing the payment to you or cutting your care. So we need to broaden care. We need to make it available to everybody. We've done it in every industrialized country has done this but us. And I want to say this. One of the impediments to universal health care, it's not just the Republicans. Yes, they have slowed it down. But way too many Democrats have been in the pockets of those big insurance companies. I have stood up in my own life to people on my side, and it's really important that we hold our people to a higher standard. So if there are Democrats who have universal health care, we need to put an elbow in them and get them out of the way, and I'll do it.
Mr. Cleveland.
Thank you. I wouldn't wish this on anyone, but I've already had to fight insurance companies. When my daughter was sick with leukemia, that first month of treatment after insurance cost over $300,000. When my youngest daughter was sick with pulmonary capillaritis, the only medicine that could treat her was over $10,000 for a medication that cost roughly $300 to make. That's disgusting. We can do better. Medicare for All Plus is the only solution moving forward. What I mean by that is Medicare for All includes your eyes, your ears, and your teeth, mental health, and rural access. I've done the work. I've already met with executive directors in our rural hospitals like Madison County, like Plains. And you want to know who the best payer is for them? Medicare. That is the answer, folks. That is it. We need to get it done, and I'll get it done for you.
And Prime Minister Butte.
There we go. So I was raised largely by my mother. She is a ICU nurse, and she would tell anyone that we have universal health care in this country right now. We just don't deliver it until you show up in the emergency room. And that is the least effective, least compassionate way for us to possibly administer health care. It doesn't serve anybody. And in this country, we manage our public lands, or our health care, or our housing, or our homelessness in the same way. We wait until there's a complete crisis and an emergency, and then we pay for it in the least effective, least efficient way possible. So if we have a fundamentally broken healthcare system, which anybody who is stuck on the private insurance market like myself, looking at a $900 plan on the marketplace with a $12,000 deductible, would tell you it is. Let's look to the programs that work here, which are Medicare. Let's plug up the holes. Let's make sure that Medicare includes vision and dental and hearing, and let's address the fact that those reimbursement rates need to be higher if rural hospitals are going to not take a loss when they're serving Medicare patients. They need to be at least as high as Medicaid. If we give everyone the option to buy into that, well, I think that that problem would solve itself and folks would get the chance to vote with their feet.
Each candidate is offered 20 seconds of rebuttal. Mr. Friedman?
Yeah, Mr. Forstag, I'm just wondering, do you support, I've heard you supported a public option, or do you support Medicare for all? And to you, what is the difference?
So the plan I'm proposing here, which I've discussed with actually Senator Sanders, who's endorsed this campaign, wrote the damn bill, you might have heard, along with 28 Montana legislators, including 4 Republicans, is giving every American, regardless of age, the option to buy into Medicare and expanding the ACA subsidies that Republicans let expire so that that is free health care for every working class person in this country and affordable health care for every person in this country who is making over $70,000 a year. That does not give Republicans the chance to frame us as taking away choice, because you know what? I know a lot of people like me stuck on the private insurance market that would jump at the chance to buy into Medicare. I don't know anybody on Medicare that would be jumping at the chance to buy into private health insurance.
Makes sense.
Thank you, gentlemen.
No other rebuttals on that question? All right. Next, we have a question about public lands and access. Montana's economy and identity are tied to our public lands. What specific federal policies would you support or oppose to ensure public access? And where do you draw the line between conservation and development? We will start with Mr. Busse.
Public lands are a central part of my life. Much of my volunteer life in the last 20 years has been spent advocating for public lands. I've been board chair of Montana Conservation Voters, North American board chairman of Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. Hugely important to me. We need to face the fact that this administration right now is full on assaulting our public lands. What they're doing is rolling back every federal regulation that all of us supported to our government, and they're opening the door for huge corporations to run roughshod over the land that you and I, that all of us own, my boys own. Together we own 640 million acres of land. It's a beautiful egalitarian thing, truly American exceptionalism. I support enhancing access to our public lands. I want federal legislation to legalize corn crossing. I want to restore the Clean Water Act and the Clean Air Act. I want to restore National Environmental Policy Act. All these things have been ripped apart by this administration now, and we need somebody there to fight for Montanans on their public lands.
Thank you, Mr. Busse, and Mr. Cleveland, you're next.
Yes, the one thing that I would look to repeal to protect our public lands would be this fast track program. I was the only candidate that showed up to the Sheep Creek discussion in Hamilton months ago to oppose the Sheep Creek mine to headwaters of the Butte River. That could have disastrous impacts, not only on the Butte, but the rest of the Clark Fork River, the entire valley, and everything downwater from that. We need to repeal that program so that we can, I'm not opposed to mining, but we need to do it in the right way. And by fast tracking it, what we are saying is we're looking past the safety provisions in place that are in place to protect our waters, our air, our land, something that we're guaranteed in this state by our state constitution. So that's part of protecting our public lands. In addition to that, I think we need to adequately fund our public land workforce, including our national parks as well.
Thank you, Mr. Cleveland. Mr. Borstak, you're next.
I care deeply about our public lands, like I think everybody on this stage, and not just as a hunter or a hiker or a skier or a climber, as somebody who spent the last 8 years working my tail off as a wildland firefighter and don't have planes from 3,000 feet into all sorts of beautiful corners of our public lands to put out fires before they grow. And I saw firsthand doing that, just what we were just talking about, that we are managing our public lands in a constant state of crisis response, and that does not serve any of us, including a whole lot of us public lands employees. It certainly does not serve the 25% of my coworkers and union members who were just fired, most of them making under $20 an hour in the midst of all the doge threats. So if we want to get out of this constant state of crisis response governing, well, we should be investing a whole lot more up front, because we have the same problem here, whether it's a 62-year-old woman sitting in the ER because she couldn't afford a primary care visit ahead of time, or a fire burning into a subdivision because we did not have political leaders with the courage to invest in our public lands up front. If we did that, we'd save a whole lot of money, we get a whole lot more, and we have more good paying jobs right here in Montana.
Thank you, Mr. Borstak. Mr. Raines, yes.
So I will absolutely defend every single acre of public land in Montana and the station. We had some games played by Ryan Zinke, who we scared out of the race. We was good with someone on our national land, but we came to protect ours. That's bullshit. You either protect public lands or you don't. With that, at Farmers Union, we actually reached out immediately when the government shutdowns and the doge did hit to our Forest Service and Fish, Wildlife, Parks, and asked if they needed jobs, we would be there for them. We have to get ahead of the ball. As Congress, it is our responsibility to make sure that we are funded and we do not have government shutdowns. It affects our lives here in Montana as individuals. And so our protection of our Forest Service and our public lands, first and foremost, as myself. Corner crossing, I'll also throw that out there. I'm a rancher. I understand this issue. I can go and talk with other ranchers. I'm for it. It's brilliant. The problem is trespassing, and that's what ranchers have an issue with. And so I will absolutely be an advocate to make sure that we can get that passed.
Thank you, Mr. Cleveland, today.
Yeah, Mr. Raines, as a fellow rancher, how do you see the intersection between cattle grazing on public lands and the use of public lands for the general public?
I've actually been to like some Farm Bureau stock organizations to where the conversation's there. Ranchers, we've always been the best stewards of the land with our animals. We know not to overgraze. We want to be up there, and actually grazing in the public lands does help clear out that underbrush. And so there's great ways to have those sides come together, but it's the individual, the candidate, that will link them together that gets both sides communicated.
Thank you. Any other rebuttal arguments or questions? Okay, then we will move on.
Gentlemen, this fourth question is on data centers.
That's right.
Montana is seeing proposals for multiple large AI data centers that could dramatically increase electricity demand. Should Montana actively recruit these facilities, or should the state limit them? The first question, this will go to Mr. Cleveland.
Yes, thank you. I've actually been super involved in studying this and trying to understand the broader issue here. The number one issue that we're facing is that we have a moratorium because of this big disastrous bill on states' rights to actually regulate this at the state level. That would be the first thing that I would repeal. We need to have the ability in in the state of Montana to determine what's best for us based off of our state constitution. Once we have that right back, we can demand things like island power that makes sure that the facility is paying for their own power, that we, the public, are not paying for this additional power consumption. Additionally, that also includes water, closed loop cooling systems, so we're not using our fresh water resources to actually cool these microchip processors. Lastly, I think the most thing that concerns me is invasion of privacy. We need to repeal or revise the Patriot Act and put provisions in place so that companies like Palantir can no longer harvest our data and invade the privacy of Americans.
Mr. Forstack, same question.
Absolutely. So these data centers are a symptom of the larger problem here. Artificial intelligence companies that are running roughshod right now with zero regulation, with in fact reverse regulation from the federal level, are perhaps the scariest single existential threat to our country and the future of our economy. The data centers, as a symptom, well, if they are going to be making profits hand over fist, they should have to meet strict requirements before they get to come to a place like Montana. That means energy self-sufficiency, providing all of their own power so that our power bills are not going up in a place where working people are already struggling. That means not skipping on their cooling systems. And if these companies are going to make that sort of money, well, they sure as hell better be using air cooling systems and not sucking up more water that's already a scarce resource in the state. And thirdly, if they're going to come here, well, they better be using good union labor because God knows they can afford it. And more strongly, the thing we need to talk about here is that these places are mining for personal data, and if they're going to do that, every single person ought to be compensated for the data that they're turning around and selling right back to us.
Mr. Raines, same question.
So it is a two-part question. First of all, with AI, the United States needs to be the leading edge of that technology to stay number one in the world. So I support the development of AI with guardrails and make sure that our privacy is protected. And so in Congress, we need to be proactive, not reactionary, with the development of AI in this nation. With the data centers, as a pilot, Black Hawk helicopter pilot, I was told by an instructor early on, you never want to fly an alpha mod. And that's what I'm concerned with the data centers right now where we are. They don't have enough research information about the effects of them in hot weather, cold weather. And so we need to get more before I would support them coming into Montana. I know the unions really, really want these data centers. I understand it is great jobs, but I want to see the R&D done. I want to see these companies invest into making sure that they benefit Montana and are not a drain on us in the long run.
Mr. Busse.
Thank you, Lisa. Look, let's be honest about what data centers are. A major part of the product of the data centers AI is to put human labor out of work. We should be honest about that. Secondarily, most of the data centers are owned and pushed upon us by billionaires who want to further concentrate wealth at the top and take it from us. We should be very, very suspicious of people who run into our Montana communities and tell us that we have to quickly approve these things without any regulation, and they tell us, don't worry, your electricity rates aren't going to go up. I say then, put it in law now. Put it in law now. They say they're not going to affect our water. I say, put it in law now. These people are powerful. They're money. This is going to be a fight. You need to send somebody to DC who is willing to fight these people. I have stood up against powerful forces in my life. I know this is going to be difficult, but the people of Montana need a voice. Billionaires in the private jet class, they got plenty of voices. We need ours.
Yeah, I just wanted to rebut that. Look, Matt, I think we do have the research. Companies all over the country the world are doing it different and right in their countries. It's all about corporate greed. We want to do it cheap here, not right. We need to put the guardrails in place And we need to demand that union labor is the one building these things, not some out-of-state, out-of-country company. Once we do that, we can foster pretty incredible things like Cells, a company in Bozeman that has discovered leukemia 10 years before it shows in your blood by using AI. And that is what we can expect from AI when done right. So don't be scared of it, we just need to do it right.
I'm about to do a rebuttal to that, because I pretty much agree with what you're saying. I'm talking about, so I spent 4 years inspecting coal and gas plants, and I understand, like, there's a way with these data centers to, and kind of hit it on, like, recycle this water back into these power plants, so you can, like, superheat the water before it goes into a gas turbine. And so that's the kind of technology that I want to make sure that these corporations are investing in, not just trying to cheap and efficiently strip Montana of our natural resources.
Any final results? Mr. Butte?
Just like to make one last point. The reason data centers are rushing here is because they believe we have cheap power, because they believe we have open land, because they believe that we have insufficient regulation to stop them from moving fast. We need to be very careful about it.
They're rushing here because we have 2 senators and 2 representatives who don't give a damn about Montana.
Sam, we'll give you an opportunity. If you want 20 seconds to rebuttal.
As long as we're all doing it here. Yeah, the bigger problem here is that this is an issue that needs addressed on the federal level. We have none of that. And this is the same problem we see at the state level year after year. They spend 3/4 of their time singing and dancing about problems that do not materially improve our lives. And then they turn around and they cut the top income tax bracket 10 years in a row in the state. And you know what they did last year at the state legislature? Well, they actually cut taxes for data centers. And meanwhile, most of the people in this state are stuck paying higher rents and not able to afford the basic goods that we're going to need when this industry potentially eviscerates a whole bunch of industries that we rely on for jobs.
Thank you, candidates. We are going to go into a 10-minute break. So audience, if this sparks some new questions for you, please get them in. We have a bucket and notepads in the front. Please get those questions in. We're going to take that real soon. And candidates, you are free to go backstage and speak this up. We'll be back in 10 minutes.
I don't have a second microphone set. I should have brought my other one. I didn't think about it. Can they not hear it?
No, not really. So the sound is really poor.
Part of it is because the microphone is right down here. So maybe they get over this side. The other thing we can do is I can just hook this mic up over on that one. Let's just do that.
How many people?
I just have one right now. Guys, back here. Okay, guys, let us know if you can hear. We're on intermission right now, about a 10-minute intermission. This is where audience questions are going to come into play. If you have any questions, you can try to drop them in the comments, and I don't think I'll be able to get them up there, but we can at least talk about it anyway. Let me know if you can hear. That's the most important thing. Let's check. Okay. Yeah, let me know if you can hear. Know that we've got a mic in here. Okay, so there's that. What's up, guys? How's it going? So we are live from the Democrat candidate House 1 first debate of the season. So far, it's been pretty good. The moderators asked a series of 4 questions. They ranged from data centers to healthcare. We also touched on some other issues, and so now it's going to be audience questions. This will be interesting to see what are Montanans most interested. Hello. What are most
I really messed you up.
a little bit. A little bit messed me up, but yeah. Anyway, what's up, guys? How's it going? So we are here from the House 1 debate. I'm on TikTok right here, and we're on Facebook over here. I just want to let you guys know that it's going to be audience questions next, and those. Oh, I hate this when it doesn't. Yeah. Okay.
Is it sounding better? Is the sound better now?
Yeah, hopefully you guys can hear because we put you guys on microphones, so hopefully this is a little bit easier to hear for you guys. If you could let me know, that'd be great. Just put I can hear you in the comments, or a 1, whatever, just some kind of feedback so that we know that you can hear what we're saying to you. I'm going to set this down. Okay, so we are here. We've got audience questions coming up here in just a few moments. Should get interesting. We'll see what Butte America citizens want to hear from their candidates. What do they want to know? We've got about 300 people, give or take a little bit here, which is a great turnout. And I think that... What's that?
There's nobody supposed to be sitting up there.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's Montana. You know they're going to sit wherever they want anyway. Like, the fact that there aren't more people up there is actually kind of surprising. Yeah, I'm just being super for real. Of course, it's probably half my fault because I set us here. But I'm like, I got a press badge, dude. I can sit where I want.
That's right.
Anyway. So, yeah, it's been interesting to see. The answers were pretty good. I'm a little disappointed in the healthcare conversation, because I think there's one major thing that they are not addressing. You know, they're really quick to say Medicare for all, Medicare Plus for all, because they want to cover dental and vision and mental health. And listen, I'm all for that. I think that's great. But one of the big problems with Medicare that they don't talk about is long-term care, which is a huge issue. It's an issue that touches on things like whether or not families have to spend their entire inheritance on long-term care and then leave nothing for their children. Their entire life's work, they've got to hand over in the last couple of years of their life to these long-term care facilities and leave nothing for their children after they've worked their entire lives to build whatever they have. And that's one of the problems that I have with Medicare for all. That's why I think we should do Medicaid. I think it's, obviously I think there's a lot of other reasons that Medicaid is a far superior choice. Not everybody agrees with me, and that's all fine and good. But in reality, I think that it's easily something that we could work with. It's something I know that I will be bringing up to these candidates because it's, it affects my life personally right now. I know a lot of people in my age range, we're in that weird age where we're raising our kids and taking care of our parents at the end of their lives. And so long-term care is a big fucking deal, man. It's expensive as shit. And it's not covered by Medicare. And in order for it to be covered, otherwise you either have to be independently wealthy or you have to get onto Medicaid. But the only way you can get onto Medicaid is if you have less than $2,000 in cash and assets in the bank, which means that you have to spend your entire life savings to qualify for any kind of help when it comes to long-term care. And that's a big deal. That's a really big deal. What's up, guys? How's it going? I am over here talking about one of the things. Oh, sweet. So you guys heard the whole thing. So yeah, sure. This one is like way less charitable than this one. I'm like, do we have filters for Facebook? Because I like the filter on TikTok, but you guys should go watch on TikTok. I look way better over there.
Are there filters too?
I don't know. I don't go live on Facebook enough to know. Like, I have no idea. But that's all right. My ugly mug is what it is. I'm not even worried about it. Thanks for joining, guys. So we're in the debate. We're going to have regular questions coming up here soon, which is great, from the audience. We'll get to see what the audience members are concerned about. Other than that, universal health care has been big. We talked about public lands. That's always going to be a big issue in Montana. And I think it's catching across the West, too. I think Ryan Busty hit on it really well in that we we co-op, meaning we co-own the dreaded socialism. We co-own 640 million acres of public land in this country. And not only is it beautiful, and not only is it something that we do well, we could do it better, but that to me is a big example of how well we can work together when we choose to, when we have similar priorities, when we understand how important these things are to people. So they hit on that. They hit on data centers. Data centers are a big deal here in Montana because we're looking down the barrel at 14 data centers being built here in our state, which is, I mean, if you know anything about Montana, the ground itself is pretty priceless. Like it's a hot commodity. And so to buy up that land, even if it's out in the middle of nowhere, is kind of a big deal, especially because most Montanans can't afford that land. And we're already being priced out, and now we're going to have these folks come in. They're going to build this shit that's going to taint our water. It's going to put off a hum. A lot of people don't know that about data centers. They have a hum to them that'll drive people fucking crazy. And it's nuts. Like they're just not good news, especially when we can't put any regulation on them. I like the concept of what Russ Cleveland had to say about it in terms of, he said, listen, we don't need to be afraid of AI, but we definitely need to be on top of regulating it. And I happen to agree with him on that. He gave a great example of how a company, Bozeman, an AI company, has figured out how to diagnose leukemia up to 10 years in advance. And I think that's really important, right? And AI can do those things, and it can be used for good, but also these data centers are not for nothing, and they need to be watched, they need to be regulated, and our internet laws in general are just completely out of fucking date, really fucking out of date. And so that's one of the things that we're looking for. Those are some of the things that these guys had to say. We had Sam Forstag talking about healthcare. He is basically running the Bernie plan. I don't want to bag on the guy, but like it's a lot of canned responses, right? There's not a lot of originality to be had there. There are some of these issues that these guys I don't think are really, I don't know. I don't want to be too hard on them. They're doing a good job. They're doing a good job, and they can't possibly know everything. But yeah, those are some of the things that I'm looking forward to. I will be talking to them about the concept of long-term care. That's a super, super big deal that gets overlooked way too much. And it gets overlooked because it's so important because it touches on more than one thing, right? It's not just healthcare. This is how you preserve generational wealth. So if we don't provide healthcare that can also preserve that generational wealth, then the working class has less opportunity. And what the fuck are we saving our money for? What the fuck are we building all this for? If we're just going to hand it over to private insurance companies and private long-term care companies at the end in the last couple of years of our lives, like what's the point? Anybody who's in my age range, or mid-40s, you probably have experienced that. You've either got grandparents or you've got parents that are staring down the barrel at this very issue, and you may not have the capacity to keep them in your home and take care of them. And if you don't, what does that mean? Does that mean that their life's work is all for naught? They can't pass you anything? So anyway, I'll quit preaching about it. I'm not running for office, so that's what I think. It's nice to see you guys. If you guys could tap the screen, let's get up to 5,000 views. That should put us on the FYP. That will be good for as many people as possible to see what your future representation in Congress is going to look like. These guys are not alone. They are working together in coalitions around the country with candidates. And given what we know about what's coming in the midterms, it's likely that one of these guys is going to be there, and people who think a lot like them are going to be there. So it's good for you guys to be watching who these guys are, what's important to them. You need to get a feel for whether or not you think they're good representation. And then, of course, always, if you see a candidate that you particularly like, you should donate. A lot of these guys are out here, they're not taking any PAC money. They're doing all small donations and all working class donations. They're not allowing corporate influence. And two of the candidates are taking corporate money, two of the candidates are not. I don't think anybody who knows me, you know where I stand on that. I absolutely will not be voting for anyone who takes corporate money. You just, you sold your right to my vote, the instant you accepted their money as far as I'm concerned, but you know, what do I know? Okay, I'm gonna flip you guys back around. It looks like we're getting ready to start here pretty soon. Either that or there's a ghost in the wiring system, perhaps. I don't know. We shall see. Say hi to my best friend Dana. Hello, this is my best friend. She's the coolest person I know. Okay, so they're trying to get everybody back to their seats. We have such a good turnout here tonight. I'm so impressed with the turnout. I think it's fantastic. And guys over on Facebook, I just want to let you guys know that for whatever you couldn't hear, you'll hear some great answers now. Now that you've got some mic and whatnot, you'll be able to hear. Hopefully you guys on TikTok. I think, hey Jamie, can you let me know, can you hear me on TikTok? I think you probably can. I think if you couldn't, you'd probably say something, but if you could just, I don't know, give me a comment just let me know if you can hear. That's the important thing. I just want to make sure you guys can hear what's being said. We had to switch the microphone over to the other phone because they could not hear. So thanks for being here, by the way. And also, let's tap the screen, guys. Get up to 5,000. Let's get this live on the FYP so that people can see one of their House representatives is sitting on the stage answering questions. So I'm fairly certain of it. There are people who are going to question that, but those people who don't know they don't know Montana. They don't know Montana. Anyway, let's flip you around. These guys are about to sit down here in a minute, and I'm going to take a break because I'm thirsty and I don't have anything to drink, so I really don't have anything else to say. Well, that's not true. I can always talk about everything. I always have something to say. It's very rare that I don't, but let's get back to the action. Perfect.
Well, howdy folks. I hope you'll enjoyed that nice intermission. Got a little bit more than 10 minutes there. Earlier when Jesse was introducing the moderators, he did not introduce my service dog, Professor Huckleberry.
We love the professors.
Will bite any hecklers.
Yeah.
And earlier, actually before this, we read he's the narrator of my children's book series. So we went to Butte Library story time for children and read to them. So he has gotten lots of treats. He's doing great. He's exhausted.
Apparently we're not exciting enough for him.
All right, and without further ado, we've got some great questions from the audience, so thank you to everyone who contributed. I think we're ready to get started. And we'll go first. This question is addressed to everyone, so we'll just go down the line. We'll start with Sam for now. The question is, explain how you feel about diversity, equality, and inclusion in the military, and primarily how you think women should participate in the military. Sam, we'll begin with you.
I think the place that our congressional representative ought to start with a question like this is the beautiful rights that we have enshrined in our own Montana State Constitution. It's right in Article 2, right up front, the right to human dignity. And that ought to be the basis for the And I spent a year working as the legislative manager for the ACLU, defending people's basic right to dignity when it was under attack at the state legislature. And we fought back attacks on those things, like a medical ban. And we did that with a whole lot of Republicans, and I did not realize how little time I had to answer this question.
So sorry, I forgot to mention that you guys only have 30 seconds for all of these questions, so we're going to try to get through as many as we can. So thank you for that, Sam. We'll move on to Ms. Raines.
Speed round.
Holy crap, that sure changed my answer. So, first of all, let's talk about DEI. We have to get that back installed into our nation. This administration's attack on DEI is a shame.
In the military, I mean, it was sad. When I was at West Point, it was still only 20% females that were going through the academy. We need to increase that. There is nothing in combat arms that I saw that a woman could not do. And so, I mean, we've grown, but we need to ensure, and this administration is disgusting in the way that they are stereotyping our military.
Mr. Bessie, you're up.
If we want to have a functioning democracy that has a military, our military needs to look like our functioning democracy. Okay? It ought to, the makeup of the military ought to mirror our society. And I'm a strong proponent of that. I don't think that we can be exclusionary. We can't enforce this sort of social culture warring policy in a place that ought to look like our entire country.
Mr. Cleveland, you're up.
Yes. Diversity is strength. That should be it. I think we all need to acknowledge, no matter what our differences are, those differences make us stronger in every way. And so the more that we embrace that and realize that, the more we learn, the stronger we are as a people, and the better off we are in being more inclusive, more equitable, and being more innovative. And so I'm proud to have served along some of the brightest minds, the most influential females in the military, in banking, in childcare, in education, and they all made me better. And I think we need to embrace that once again.
As stated earlier, I served in the United States Air Force Reserve in the Chaplain Corps as a candidate. This question, piggybacking on a few words, how would you have voted on the War Powers Resolution last week? And we just start with Sam. All right, Mr. Raines.
I mean, I kind of said this yesterday. There's a reason that Congress is the only authority to allow us to get engaged in a war. That reason is because Americans elect their representatives. And they should be, not currently, but they should be the voice of the American people. It is our sons and daughters that are put in harm's way. We are already losing soldiers. That right belongs in Congress.
Mr. Bessie, sir.
You've been lied to about why we're in this war in Iran.
Yeah.
We're spending almost $1 billion a day. You're told you can't have health care. You're told we can't fix the housing crisis. We're spending $1 billion a day because we've been lied to. And because we have an inept Congress that won't stand up and do its job. It's time to fix both of those.
Mr. Cleveland.
There are 7 mothers and fathers right now who are sitting at home mourning the loss of their loved ones. And that is because of one man who has too much power and a Congress that is giving it to him. Article 1, Section 8 gives Congress the authority to declare war. And I'm sorry, but $1 billion a day, whether it's dropping bombs or boots on the ground, is war. And one president should not be able to declare that war. So we need to rein that power in, and I'll do it once I get Congress.
Mr. Forsyth.
On a strict policy level, this is the simplest question we should have here. We deserve a Congress with the courage to actually take a vote on whether we're going to war in this country and whether we're going to send foreign working people to go die overseas in another foreign war that we do not want and that does not help us. And modern warfare in this country is people who are being asked to fire weapons that cost more than they will make in a year at people who will not make that in their lifetime. And a fundamental reason that we don't have congressional representatives standing up to stop that is because we are represented by wealthy folks who are not at risk of being the ones stuck out there. And if we want to fix that, we need to elect people who are actually going to have skin in the game and know what it's like.
I don't know if we're rebutting on these. We're just going to speed round through it. Okay, so our next question. Who would you support to succeed Senator Daines And should there be repercussions for the way he bowed out of the race at the last minute? We'll start with Mr. Busse here.
I think what Senator Daines did, and frankly what Congressman Zinke did, they're despicable. They're taking the rights of voters away from them. And if you want to know what the other side of the aisle looks like, that should give you an inkling into their respect for democracy and for voters. Here we are asking for your support. I'm asking for your vote. I want this job. I want to represent you. Republican voters on the other side of the aisle are going to get very little of that opportunity. As far as who I support whoever can beat, well, we don't have names now, but whoever can beat the Republican, the guy who was installed there, which none of us know his name because none of us have met him. Steve Daines put him in there.
Absolutely, I will support the Democratic candidate that is elected post-primary on June 2nd for this ticket to unseat or to replace the dishonorable Steve Daines. What he did was disgusting. We have a democratic process in this country, and we need to start sticking to it. And until we hold these people accountable, they're going to try and stress and fracture every component of it. And so we need to elect folks that are going to make sure Congress is held accountable, and I intend to do that once I hit Congress. Thank you.
Mr. Forsythe, yeah.
So Republicans in this state just tried to coordinate their replacement for who was going to be the next United States Senator, their nominee on the Republican side. It is as if they have learned nothing from what the Democratic Party just did at the national level. Right? Yeah. When we were all deprived of a convention, much less a primary, and when folks like me were stuck out on the fire line explaining to a lot of people who were already disillusioned with our political system because it was not solving the basic problems of housing and healthcare and childcare, why we didn't have to have an election on who was going to be the Democratic nominee. That is why it should be cause for hope that we got all four of us on the stage here, and that is why the Republicans are going to lose that Senate seat along with this House seat.
Mr. Daines, you're up.
So the Daines question, I mean, that is downright shameful that Montanans did not get a chance to consider running against him. That was what, if he knew he was going to step down, he should have opened up that seat to Montanans, Democrats and Republicans to consider the situation. It is embarrassing to have done that last hour shenanigans and pulled. I think the question might be about the independent candidate in the race, politely put. So I will say, I am excited for this race across the board. We need to win and flip this seat and get the GOP out of this race. If somebody asks another question, I'll say more.
Who decided on 30 seconds here?
Okay. So this will start with Mr. Cleveland. In your opinion, why did Christy Jacobson hand over Montana's voter rolls?
You know, I hope she gets what's coming to her for that, first of all. Look, this plays into a bigger issue that I just talked about with privacy. Our privacy, our data is being sold to the highest bidder. And part of pushing back is holding those elected officials doing the bidding accountable. And I think, whether it's AI or whether it's handing over our data rolls or our voter rolls, we need to hold these people accountable for a violation of our constitutional right.
Mr. Forsythe.
Well, Christy Jacobson handed over those voter rolls because she did the exact same thing she's been doing as our Secretary of State for years now. She's doing everything in her power to roll back voter access and roll back our fundamental right to the ballot, because it is not in Christy Jacobson's interest for more of us to have access to the ballot. And I know that because I spent a year fighting against her attempts to roll back ballot access by repealing same-day voter registration, even when she knew it was unconstitutional. I spent a year fighting against her as she attempted to get rid of satellite voting offices and take away access to the ballot for our Native American communities. We now have a chance to hold her accountable for that, and I cannot wait to do that in the general election here Let's do this together.
Mr. Raines, any question?
I found it so funny when the GO people tried to get in there and Zinke's seat, and I want to see the chaos. I want to see the fight. I want to see them screw themselves up with this greediness that they have, thinking that they can just be Trump's BFF and get right in there. Because we know that's what it was all about. She plastered her face right next to Trump all over the place, thinking that she would be there. And then the other guy, day one, came out. I love this drama. They deserve it. They've earned it. It is shitty what she did, and they deserve the situation they're in.
And Mr. Betsy, take us home.
This is a pretty serious situation, really. The Republican Party has lied to you once again. They have tried to tell you that they don't like big government. The truth is, they very much like big government when they're taking your data, your voter rolls, and trying to reduce your access to the ballot box with that, with all of that. That's what Christy Jacobson was doing. That's what Aaron Flint, who cheers every day on his radio talk show, that's what he's doing. They want to construct their version of big government so they can reduce your freedom. That's what that was all about with Christy Jacobson.
This next question is for all of the candidates. Do you support a congressional stock trading ban for all members of Congress? Sam, we'll start with you.
This one's easy too. Yes, absolutely. We should not have Congress people who stand to benefit off of the stock market that they ideally are passing laws to regulate, nor should we have United States senators who stand to benefit off of the private federal firefighting contracts that they are voting on to authorize. And until we stop that stock trading, until we prevent senators from being corrupt and raking in profits on all of our backs, until we get money out of politics across the board, we are not going to have the sort of working class representation, working people representing us in Congress like we deserve. So let's get started on it.
Mr. Ames, go for it.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's an easy one. But I would absolutely love to have Congress full of individuals that didn't have an option to make money off it. Because we would see way different candidates in our races wanting to run and represent all of you. And so, yeah, the stock trading ban is a great first step to start to get that corruption out of there. I've actually just sold some of my retiree stock from when I was at Montana Farmers Union just to clear that plate.
We'll give that a second to reset itself, so we're keeping track here. Maybe. Gotta get a good angle. Okay, Ms. Bressy, you're up.
Yes, absolutely, I support it. And again, let's be honest, Democrats have been offenders the same as Republicans have. Ryan Zinke's wealth, while he was in Congress, went from less than $1 million to more than $38 million. How's that happening? We need to take it one step further. We need to ban congressional members from being lobbyists for a long time. And we need to ban any registered lobbyists from becoming congressional members. Either
And Mr. Cleveland, you're up.
Yes, not only do I support it, I support banning stock trading, I support term limits, I support a moratorium on lobbying to public service, I support a judiciary code of ethics. These are all things that are fabric to a group I helped start of 160 candidates, a coalition of us coast to coast that are going to take this to the House floor together once elected, called Take Back Congress. That is real talk. Not only will I do that, but I commit to not stock trading myself. I bring that to you, you have my word as your congressman. This is serious, we need to restore ethics in Congress, and we have to do it on day one.
Alrighty. How will you work toward clean and affordable energy in Montana, given federal and state focus on our energy sources and Northwestern Energy's non-transparent and profit-driven operation? Very smart question. Shout out, Monica. That is to all candidates, and I believe
We'll start with that.
So, great question with my background in energy. The reason I took the job with the coal and gas plants was to give me a foundation that I could understand what our national power grid looks like, how it works, how it operates. And so I bring that to this show. Our compass our true north is renewable energy. We have to keep pushing in that direction. We can get there. It's going to take a long time. We need R&D to keep building upon itself. But we have solar, we have wind, we have hydro, we have so many options here. We have to keep pushing it.
Mr. Bessie, sir, same question.
This is a pretty easy one. We should do what makes common sense and good business sense here. The cheapest power to put on the grid right now is wind and solar. That's the cheapest power. So what the Trump administration and the Republican Party has done, and Aaron Flint, who has cheered this on his talk show every day, they have pulled the least expensive power from you, made you purchase the most expensive power. Why? Because corporations want to make money, right? Quarterly reports are what drives the bottom line. So they want to make more money from you instead of doing what's right. We need to reinstitute the Biden-era subsidies and tax credits to bring more cheap power online.
Mr. Cleveland, same question.
Yeah, absolutely. Not only can we do these things, but only can we do it if we start with getting money out of politics. This is all follow the money. Tie it back to who's getting what. Our politicians are paid off by the richest energy companies in the world. Ryan Zinke was one of them. ConocoPhillips was one of his biggest donors. Follow the money. That's what it always comes down to, and that's why I'm proud to share that I'm only funded by individual donors. And I am not beholden to PACs, corporate PACs, special interest groups, what have you. We can do this right. Let's go.
Mr. Forstak, take your time.
Yeah, we talked earlier about existential threats. Climate change is one that a whole lot of young people are freaked out about on both sides of the aisle right now. This could be a unifying issue, and we need to invest in it at the federal level in a way that actually accounts for who is receiving that money, because too often, when the federal government steps in, well, we're investing in things like the EV tax credit that a lot of poor and working people do not have access to. Or half of the money we're spending in some of these bills are going to large corporations and not to poor and working people who could benefit from that. So let's step in and invest in the clean energy transition that all of us need by giving that money directly to Americans to invest in rooftop solar and decentralized energy, so we are not all dependent on these energy corporations that can keep sucking all of our money out of our pockets at no benefit to us.
Thank you. This is also addressed to everyone. What will you do to combat the complacency of the Democratic Party? We'll start with you, Mr. Bessie.
Well, there's a fair amount of it there. I think it's time we elect somebody who really will go fight and put an elbow in our own party, because there is way too much intransigence. You take universal health care, for example, something that's near and dear to me. We should have universal health care were it not for healthcare insurance companies who essentially made sure that the Democratic Party did not come far enough along when the ACA was established. So let's be honest. I have done this in my life. It's tough to stand up to your own folks, it really is, but I sacrificed a dream job because I needed to do that, and I will do it in Congress, and it's way past time to get it done.
Thank you, Mr. Bessie. Mr. Cleveland, you're up.
You repeat the question?
Sure can. What will we do to combat the complacency of the Democratic Party?
Perfect. I think we have to untie our hands from the national party. We can't assume that a Montana Democrat is the same as a Democrat at the national stage. I'm doing that personally by running my campaign that same way. I presented myself as an independent Democrat, a progressive Democrat, progressive independent running on the Democratic ticket. I will not be beholden to our national party. Not now, not when I get there. I will do what's best for the constituents of Montana 1 and all of Montana citizens.
Mr. Forstak, you'll be up. All right, you're good to go.
We combat complacency by holding our own party accountable when they mess up as well. And money politics is the perfect example here. We need to repeal Citizens United, but unfortunately, that constitutional amendment has never gotten more than 60-some co-sponsors. That is disgraceful in a Congress of 435 representatives, and we need to hold Democrats as well as Republicans accountable when we get there if they're not signing on to that. And we do that by sending people to Congress who know what it's like to be on the wrong end of these broken systems, because if you do not know what it's like to spend 80% of your income to keep a roof over your head, or to be in the grocery store and knowing that you are not going to be able to fill that fridge up, even if you're working 3 jobs at a time like I was for 3 years here, well, you're going to be treating those problems with a little bit less urgency than they deserve. There's too much of that. Let's change it.
Thank you, and Mr. Raines, you're up.
It's been 30 years since Pat Williams was our last Democrat representative in Congress, and he got shit done. That's the kind of Democrat that needs to go back. They need to experience another Montana Democrat in Congress because we have the right priorities. Montanans, our way of life is so precious here. We are different than the rest of the nation. We are genuine, and that is what Congress needs right now.
This question is about women. How will you work to protect women's right to medical privacy or ensure women's rights such as access to vote, property, labor, etc.? How will you ensure it continues?
We're going to start with Mr. Cleveland.
Yeah, look, we have one of the most progressive ballots passed this last term with CI 128. Montanans want this. That's the thing. We have to protect it now at the federal level, and that's what I'm committed to do. Women's reproductive rights, women's equal rights when it comes to wages, decision-making, voting, you name it. There's a dedicated attack right now to counteract some of this legislation, and I will work tirelessly to protect that for you, for my wife, and for my daughters. Thank you.
Mr. Forsyth, your question.
We are lucky enough to live in one of the most pro-choice states in the country. CI 128 passed with 58% of the vote. And yet we are plagued with a state legislature full of Republicans who still pass unconstitutional bills every year to try to roll back women's right to access reproductive health care, your right to choose if you'd like to have an abortion. We deserve a representative who's been part of this fight before, like I have been at the state level. And we deserve a representative who can hold people like Steve Daines or Tim Sheehy accountable when they're getting online, spouting mistruths, and continuing to attack a right that Montanans have made real clear that we value.
Mr. Raines, sir.
So first and foremost, the government has no right to cross that line between a woman's right to choose for an abortion. Hard stop. That is between her doctor, her family. If she goes to, there's lots of options. The government does not belong there. We're looking at the SAVE Act right now. They are trying to make it harder for individuals, women who might have changed their last name, to go in and vote. This is an atrocity against Americans, and we need to get in there and fix that.
Is there any greater freedom than the freedom of your own body? I don't think so. And we should have a representative that carries himself or herself in that manner. They should consider this one of the most fundamental freedoms. Many of you know I ran for governor, and I was honored to run on that ticket with somebody who has defended this freedom across this state, Rafe Grable, a fantastic constitutional attorney. And it was a great honor for me to be on the campaign with him and to choose him as a running mate, largely because he is such an incredible champion of a woman's right to choose. And I'm really appreciative of Rafe doing that.
All right, we have time for a couple more. We'll start with Sam on this one. How are you different from the other candidates on the stage right now?
I'll give you 3 ways. I was raised largely by a single mom who was picking up extra shifts at the hospital as a nurse to provide for my little sister and I. There are not a lot of people in Congress that know what it's like to grow up worrying that mom is working too much. I've spent the last couple of years working as a leader in my union's local in a state with such an incredible rich history of union organizing. We have not had a union member running for Congress in over a decade. And that is a big part of the reason a lot of union members vote the other way. We can fix that. And I'll tell you what else it is my experience. I have spent a decade engaging in organizing and policy work in this state, getting bills passed with people in both parties. That is what it is going to take to win this, talking to people in both parties, and that is what it's going to take to actually deliver on solving all these big problems.
Thank you so much. Mr. Raines, how are you different from the other candidates up there with you right now?
I mean, we're all great. What I bring What I bring to the show here is the background and diversity of experiences. I've served my time in this nation. I have been to war. I know what it's like to be in a war zone and the consequences of being there. I have been in third world countries. We didn't talk about this. I was the first photographer when the Rohingya genocide kicked off in Myanmar during that travel in 60 countries.
Tell us about that!
Hi guys. So, I exposed a genocide in Myanmar. And so, that experience of putting my life on the line is the type of integrity and character that takes a lifetime to build. And that is what I bring to this race.
Thank you, Mr. Raines. We will take some claps from the audience, but we got Professor Huckleberry up here. Mr. Bussey, what makes you different from the other candidates up on the stage right now?
Apparently I have a different barber. Besides that, look, I've run for office, I've been vetted, and we ran a tough race in 2024, but I learned a lot. And a lot like Brian Schweitzer, who called me after that election, he said, you don't stop, you take what you've learned, you take what you've built, you put it to work, and you go to work winning the next election. That's exactly what Brian Schweitzer did. That's what I intend to do here. And I appreciate all of you that supported me in the last election, and we're going to get this thing done.
And Mr. Cleveland.
Thank you. Lived experience and the ability to fight and speak out against injustice. I've been proud to do that. Against genocide, against ICE, against anything that is unjust for the people of America, for the people of the rest of the world. I am the combination of the strengths of these individuals. I was raised in Western Montana. I am a military veteran. I am a small business owner. I was an executive. I am a rancher. I am a father to 6 kids and care about their future. I am those things. I am Montana, and I will represent you.
As we look to the future, there are a lot of ways that Americans need closure. They're also very tired of the toxicity. If given the chance, how would you bring charges against current members of this administration that have committed crimes? And, this is the second question, how will you support candidates if you do not continue on in this race? So how will you hold bad guys accountable, and how will you support allies?
We're starting with Mr. Raines there.
Well, if we want to throw the Epstein files into this whole thing, if you're in there and you have raped a child, you need to be tried and put into prison. So we need to impeach the president. He's done enough atrocities. He has ended Epstein files way more times than we can count. He is not fit to be president, and we need to make sure that he is removed ASAP. What was the second one?
How will you support your allies?
What was that?
Support your allies if you do.
Oh, absolutely. The most important thing for us is flipping this seat. This could be the race that gives the majority back to the House, and that is the best thing we can do to put a front up against this administration.
Of course, I'm sure we'll all support each other. Look, a major part of what's gone wrong in Congress is the lack of oversight over this administration. We're not going to change the trajectory of this country by just sweeping it under the rug. The Biden administration approach of let's go along, get along, let's pretend this stuff didn't happen, let's have Merrick Garland not prosecute people. Merrick Garland had the Epstein files for 4 years. He didn't prosecute. There is incredible cronyism and lawlessness and crime happening in Washington, D.C. now. And if we're not ready to hold them accountable, then we need to get on to something else. I will do it. It's got to happen.
Mr. Cleveland, same question?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I'll support anybody that gets elected out of this election. I hope it's me. I would be honored to serve you. Second of all, I'm not just talk. When I say I'll bring articles to the floor for impeachment, I already have. I marched on the Capitol with 30,000 other people in November, largely veteran, and many of them candidates, and we worked with Representative Al Green to already bring articles of impeachment to the floor. The problem is we don't have the representation right now to get those articles through. And this is the race that we will do that. And I'd be proud to sponsor that as your representative for Montana 1. Thank you.
A lot of us were forced to watch federal agents, immigration agents, who were an absolute disgrace to the badge that they were wearing and the government they were supposed to represent. Anybody in that chain of command who was involved with a mother being shot through her car window, or a civil servant being executed in the streets, needs to be held accountable, needs to face criminal charges. Bottom line. Accountability across all of these areas, including the Epstein files, needs to be done in both parties. Because I don't feel a whole lot of fidelity to either national party at this point. I know a whole lot of folks have fallen further behind under either party's rule, and we do not need a Democrat who is just going to be falling in line. We need a Democrat who's going to kick down those doors of change and hold people accountable regardless of party here.
Alrighty, thank you, gentlemen. Now we are getting to the section of closing statements, folks. We will go in reverse order from how you did opening statements. So we'll start with Mr. Cleveland. And you, the dog is snoring.
Sounds interesting. Wake him back up.
He's ready to go home. He's tired. Mr. Cleveland, you will each have 90 seconds to give your closing statements for the evening. Thank you so much for being here.
I just want to say thank you all for being here. It's a lot of work to run a campaign, but it's much easier when we see participation like this because it shows that you also care about the state of our union. I am the candidate that hopes to inspire change on a broader level. I hope to lead with my heart finally again and not just my head or lip service. It's time that we have that back. We have to start caring about each other again. I remember a purple Montana that I grew up in. My vision for America includes one that has universal health care, that has universal child care, that allows people to pursue an education of their desire without taking on lifelong student debt. One that includes a country that doesn't sponsor foreign wars or killing innocent people anywhere. Not just Gaza, but Iran or Venezuela or anywhere. We have to end this forever war machine. We have to start focusing on Americans again. We are hurting, and we need real representation that's going to get that back. So I'd be honored to be your representative. I hope you vote for me. Thank you so much.
Mr. Vesey, 90 seconds, closing statement, please. Thank you.
I owe this state an incredible amount, and I'm here asking humbly for you to allow me to represent you and represent the rest of the citizens of Montana 1 in Washington, D.C. We should be honest with each other about what's at stake in this election. I think, and I'm asking that you send somebody back there who's going to be a fighter, who's somebody who's demonstrated integrity, somebody who has strong moral principles. I believe that's me. The reason this is so important is because this may well be the seat that determines the majority in the U.S. Congress. And if we do not win this seat, look, there's probably going to be election interference in other places across this country. Okay, probably in blue cities, blue states. And so some of these races that we thought were winnable, they may be much tighter, they may not be won. It could come down to this night right here, to some of you, to knocking on a door, to making a phone call, to asking somebody to vote. We're in a perilous place in the country, and I think we ought not experiment. We should send somebody back there who's willing to fight, willing to represent Montana, willing to make this place better, and I think that's me. I ask for your vote. Thank you for being here tonight.
Mr. Raines, give it just a second. There you go. Closing statement, 90 seconds.
So, thank you all for coming. This has been amazing. I would much rather be riding horses right now. I've got 4 3-year-olds that I just got started in January. They got 30 days on them and they're ready to go. But I got in this race because my experience, my background, West Point, having served in the military, the understanding of how this world operates. I've been there firsthand. I've worked with the energy grid across the nation. I've come back to Montana. I've improved our ranchers and farmers' lives and given them opportunities to keep their operations going. This is an incredibly vital time for us to flip this seat. Democrats have not won an open race or a race held by a Republican in 28 of 29 times. John Tester is the one time in the last 45 years since I was born. It is not easy for us. We cannot look at this chaos with the GOP and think we've got this one. It is going to be damn hard to win this. We can get 40%. We can get 45%. It is damn hard. We have to be serious. I got into this race because John Tester won. He got the votes in this district. I feel that I can connect with those voters like he did across the political spectrum and bring them to the Democrats and let them see that they have a quality candidate and they can jump on board. Thank you. Please vote.
Thank you, Mr. Raines. Mr. Forstag, 90 seconds for your closing statement.
There has been a whole lot of anger and vitriol that we all expressed today, because there are a lot of reasons to be angry in the United States today. There are a lot of reasons to be disappointed. And in the last couple of elections, it has felt like we are stuck in this political cycle in which anger is the language of politics. And we need to win this seat, but we need to win it in a meaningful way. And that means not just winning by convincing folks that they should hate the other guys more than us. We need to win by showing a lot of the people that we just lost as a Democratic Party last election what it means to be a party of the working people. When I was growing up, that's exactly who the Democratic Party was. And last election, you know what? We lost voters making under $100,000 a year. We lost about half of union members in this state last year. And a whole lot of young folks here in Montana either stayed home or swung to the right because they did not see a politics that was offering them any concrete solutions to the huge problems, making life so hard to afford for a whole lot of people in this state. And if we want to change that, I would offer that we have to finally give folks a candidate that they can see their experience and their struggle reflected in. I am all of those people. I know what it is like to be working 3 jobs at a time and still end up paying your rent on a credit card, and I'm going to address the housing crisis with the adequate level of urgency because of that. I know what it is like to be trying to talk to my union members about, well, why the National Democratic Party is just enough better than the Republican Party, and they should vote for them. If we want to change the way the National Democratic Party, the way the political system works, we need to change the sort of candidate that we offer people. We do that not by offering them $1 million to go fight the rest of them. We do that by finally running a working class candidate who is going to go in there and start changing these policies that we desperately need in Montana. I'd love to know.
Thank you to all 4 of our candidates for meeting in one spot and hashing out some of these questions with us. And thank you all for coming to the Mother Lode tonight to hear them and hear them out.
Thank you to our moderators.
Justin, thank you for putting this on. Thank you.
Thank you, dude, for turning out tonight. So the candidates are going to hang around for a while. They're going to mingle with the audience, answer some questions. The press might take a moment to speak with them. Thank you everyone for all of your amazing questions. Thank you for your patience. We did have some minor technical difficulties. Which, a reminder, this is a very old theater. We could use your help. Please donate.
You heard, guys. Donate to the Motherlode Theater in Butte, Montana, so that they can remodel it.
Thanks for watching, you guys. Pretty good debate.
That was pretty good. I have to tell you, I was really impressed at the fact that we had Palestinian, Free Palestine protesters, and they were not thrown out. They were allowed to be here.
In fact,
they were allowed to protest, and they were addressed. And I love that. I love that. That is what America is supposed to look like. We're supposed to be able to protest. We're supposed to be able to hold people accountable and have that courage and not just be escorted out, but be addressed. So I'm proud. I'm really proud of that. That was pretty awesome. Thanks so much for joining us, guys. We'll see you soon. Okay, and then finish. What's up, guys? Thank you so much, guys. This was an awesome debate. I feel really good about it. I think all the candidates did pretty good. I think the questions were great. The audience hit the nail on the head with the things that the American people are concerned about, the things that the American people need assurance on. We need to know that we are sending people to Washington to do what we need them to do. You heard Russ Cleveland say tonight that he is already forming a coalition of 160 politicians, candidates around the country, ready to go to Washington and enact 5 core tenets. The first, no stock trading in Congress. The second, no Citizens United. The third is, there were a couple of them. I don't really remember exactly all 5 of them. But basically, they're campaign finance and they're getting money out of politics. I'm so proud of them. Hold on, I'm going to switch over to a microphone. Thank you. Okay, can you hear me better now? Does that work a little bit better maybe? Anyhow, so what a great night it was. What a wonderful, I am so proud of how this was run. Jesse did a great job. His name is Jesse Mullen. He runs Mullen News Media, News Network, Media Company. I don't know, whatever. He does a great job. He did a great job tonight. I'm really proud of him. Lee and the other moderator did good. You can follow Lee here on TikTok. It's under Follow the Leader, FOLLOWLEIGHDER. Follow the Leader. She's amazing. She does a lot of work around Christian nationalism in the U.S. chaplaincy and the military and around the country. If you want to see somebody taking down Pete Hegseth, she's your girl. She's taking him down a notch every chance she gets. Really astute and smart. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I will see you guys later. Thanks so much for joining. I will put clips up over the next few days, and I hope you have a lovely evening. Thanks so much for joining. Have a good one, guys. We'll see you.